Now at 5, we'll hear from a business owner in Noel, Missouri about the impact of Tyson closing its plant there. Plus, it's only been a week of school in Joplin and already there have been complaints about drivers not stopping for school buses. And
a trial date has been set in former President Trump's federal case related to January 6th and alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 election. I'm Natalie Brand in Washington with where it falls on the presidential primary calendar.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Less than a month after Tyson announced the closing of its plant in Noel, Missouri, local businesses and housing programs in the area are feeling the impact. This is KOAM News at 5. I'm Dow Quick. According to Noel Housing Authority Executive Director Rosetta Hartley, 27 Somalian families are part of the program and are tied to Tyson. 5 have already given notice they're moving at the end of October. 2 are moving in January. The owner of another local business, Leanne Parrish of Bob's Hometown Pizza, says about 80% of her clients are somehow tied to Tyson. With the closing of the plant, she's sad to see some of them already leaving.
We've had several come in that they come in to eat one last time because they're already moving out of the city.
And then there's several that have come in and just kind of said, hey, I don't know if I'm moving yet or not. I'm trying to find a job locally, but if I have to, I'm also looking elsewhere.
The McDonald County Chamber is organizing another career fair for those looking for jobs. That's scheduled for September 28th. The USDA is investing nearly $50 million to help utilities in rural Kansas build and improve clean drinking water and sanitary wastewater systems. Some of that money is going to local projects. Neosho County Rural Water District Number 4 is receiving nearly $11 million in loans and grants to build a new booster pump station and storage tank. More than $16.5 million will be used to refurbish the water system in Girard. And the city of Humboldt is getting nearly $13 million to replace piping, hydrants, and meters. Now that there are more school buses on the roads during the morning commute, drivers have to stay vigilant when students are boarding. Parents near 2nd and Schifferdecker in Joplin are concerned about the number of drivers passing school buses while students board. Parents say this has been happening since school started a week ago.
Myself and my neighbor, who live very close to her, have about 16 children between us. That's not even including the other side of the road. It would be great if they could put up some more signs to try to slow people down or patrol the area more. That's what I would suggest.
According to Missouri law, illegally passing a school bus is a Class A misdemeanor. First-time offenders could have their license suspended for 90 days if found guilty. Let's check in with meteorologist Sam Lane for a first look at the weather.
And it's a beautiful look at the weather with just temperatures certainly a lot cooler than last week. In fact, this morning we saw lows in the upper 50s across the area, some lower 60s as well. And then this afternoon, with all the dry air in place, the temperature was really able to rebound this afternoon into the 80s. All eyes are now watching the tropics as Franklin is a Category 4 hurricane off the east coast of Florida. But we're also concerned about this cluster of storms down near Cuba. That's expected to become a hurricane and move northward, but unfortunately, no rainfall from that expected on our area. Instead, we're going to see temperatures dropping through the 80s to the 70s to about 61 degrees by tomorrow morning. And looking down the lane, we're going to have some cool nights ahead as well as some warm afternoons, dry as well. And it looks like maybe the heat wave might return a little bit, and I'll tell you all about that in just a bit.
See you soon. The judge in former President Trump's federal case related to January 6th and alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 election results has set a date for trial. It'll coincide with one of the biggest election days on the presidential primary calendar. Reporter Natalie Brand has details.
Former President Trump's attorneys did not get the 2026 trial date they had pushed for in his federal election interference case. Instead, the judge has scheduled it for March 4th of next year.
The judge, I think, largely was just not buying what the defense was selling here. I think what the judge acknowledged here is that there is a public interest in a speedy resolution.
Jury selection is scheduled to begin the day before Super Tuesday, when 15 states hold GOP primary contests. It also comes 3 weeks before his New York trial related to alleged hush money payments to adult film actress Stormy Daniels. Trump told a conservative radio show Monday that his supporters are still with him.
Usually if a thing like that happens, that's the end of your political career.
That's true.
And what happens is they get it because they see that the nonsense that they're talking about. It's nonsense.
Judge Tanya Chutkan emphasized she intends to treat Trump as any other defendant and said he will have to make the trial date work regardless of his schedule. That schedule will also include court dates in Georgia on charges of conspiring to overturn the 2020 election in that state. Trump and 18 co-defendants are scheduled to be arraigned on September 6th.
I have a strong feeling that District Attorney Fani Willis is going to be trying a number of different iterations of this case because it will be difficult to try all the defendants at once.
One of those co-defendants, former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, was in court today asking that his case be moved to federal court. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Washington.
Former President Trump is using his legal cases to fundraise from supporters. His campaign announced that it raised $7 million off his mugshot since last Thursday. The University of North Carolina says a suspect has been arrested after reports of shots fired near the campus. Students and faculty at the university barricaded themselves in dorm rooms, offices, and classrooms for hours until a lockdown was lifted this afternoon. It's not clear if anyone was hurt in that incident. The FBI is investigating the deadly shooting at a Dollar General in Jacksonville on Saturday as a hate crime. The gunman, 21-year-old Ryan Palmeter, was white. All three victims were black. Police say Palmeter obtained the guns legally. President Biden condemned the shooting, saying white supremacy has no place in America. Still ahead, going green at night.
More Americans are going electric, and that could put a strain on the power grid. I'm Michael George at the reason why when you charge your car could save you money.
And next in Health Watch, where researchers are sounding the alarm on the dangers of air pollutants indoors. Topping today's Health Watch, the head of the CDC suggests maybe waiting a few weeks before getting another COVID-19 shot. Dr. Mandy Cohen says updated vaccines targeted against recent variants are expected to be available this fall. However, Cohen says the unvaccinated and those who are vulnerable might not want to hold off, and she recommends talking to your doctor about what's best. A summer of extreme heat and air quality alerts has put communities all across the United States at risk. Well, now researchers are trying to learn more about pollution that could be lurking inside your home, where Americans on average spend 90% of their time. Reporter Natalie Brand takes a look at a new study aimed at protecting vulnerable communities.
Socializing after Sunday service doesn't typically involve conversations about air quality.
30% of all Americans live in communities with unhealthy air.
But some parishioners at St. James Episcopal Church in Baltimore, Maryland, are getting these sensors to track air quality and temperature inside their homes.
According to the EPA, indoor air is sometimes 2 to 5 times more toxic than outdoor air.
Professor Terry Adams and her team at Howard University say these monitors will measure indoor pollutants.
Carbon dioxide in there, particulate matter or matter that's just floating in the air. It can be dust, dirt, mites, anything. Formaldehyde.
Those particles can come from synthetic building materials, household products, poor ventilation, even cooking, and can cause health effects from headaches and irritation to respiratory diseases, even cancer. How do you think your house is going to do?
That's $1 million question.
Study participant Richard Hackett says poor air quality outdoors this summer from the Canadian wildfires left him feeling sick.
I feel discomfort in my chest. I feel discomfort in my head and my eyes.
Professor Adams says urban centers and underserved communities can be especially impacted by pollution and extreme heat.
I would say that we have 2 major goals. One is to make people more aware, and also so that we can collect data to inform policymakers of where resources need to go.
Indoors, that could include providing air conditioners and air filters. Outdoors, planting more trees to clean and cool the environment.
If we wait too long, it'll be too late.
Hackett created his own green space in front of his home to do his part and hopes more people take action to improve the air. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Baltimore.
People who might be most vulnerable to the health impacts of indoor air pollutants, such as older adults and children, often spend the most time indoors. The ideal bedtime temperature for older adults is between 68 and 77 degrees. That's according to researchers from Harvard Medical School. They find there's a 5 to 10% drop in sleep efficiency when temperatures were above 77 degrees. The study looked at nearly 11,000 nights of sleep from people aged 50 and older. Researchers say this highlights how climate change could lead to potential issues unique to the aging population. And that is a look at today's health news. A little bit later, why the Department of Transportation is fining American Airlines a record amount of money.
And we had a really nice cool morning this morning, and it looks like it's going to continue. I'll have all the details in your work week forecast when we come back. Well, folks, this week is going to be a lot different from last week. It's going to be cooler and also drier, especially in the mornings, with very comfortable conditions. So let's enjoy it while we can, because it looks like summer might be making a comeback later on. Right now outside in Seneca, Missouri at Indigo Sky Casino and Resort, lots of blue sky and also a few clouds out there, some cumulus and some cirrus, but not too bad of an afternoon. In fact, we were only up to 85 today, which was below normal. That's the kind of things we like to see in the summertime. The average high is 88 this time of year, and we're still way behind on the rainfall, almost about 9.5 inches behind. And unfortunately, there's nothing really on radar right now, and we're not really expecting anything over the next several days. But we're all turning our attention down to the Gulf of Mexico and the tropics with Idalia, and it is moving towards the north. And she's expected to make landfall in the Big Bend area of Florida as we go through time. And that's going to be really bad news for the folks in western Florida. But here we're not really expecting anything like that, or even any tropical moisture to say the least. Instead, we're going to see temperatures pretty nice right now. 83 in Lamar, 84 in Stockton, as well as Nevada. A little bit warmer out to the west, where it's 87 in Independence and Sedan. But the big story is the dew points. Look at these low dew points. 53 in Iola, 59 in Neodesha. So it's much drier, and that allows the temperature to really fall at night, as the temperature can't fall below the dew point, but it's making it feel very nice, pleasant, and not bad out there as far as the dew points. Rain chances, unfortunately, are going to remain low for the next 36 hours, as we're not really expecting much in the way of precipitation. This ridge of high pressure that caused all the heat has retreated back to the west, but notice as we go through the week, here it comes back. Although it's not going to be as strong as it was last week, but nevertheless, we're going to see temperatures above normal once again, and hopefully the humidities will be lower as well. Low humidity tonight, that's for sure, with temperatures in the low to mid 60s with northerly winds. Then tomorrow, we're going to see partly cloudy skies with highs in the mid 80s, maybe some lower 90s in southeastern Kansas. And then as we go through into Wednesday morning, lows in the 60s once again. And then Wednesday afternoon, not too bad, with temperatures in the low to mid 80s across the area, upper 80s out towards the west with northeasterly winds. Then on Thursday morning, a little bit of reinforcement of the cooler air with temperatures in the 50s and the lower 60s. How about the next 7 days? Well, nice weather all the way through the weekend. Only a 10% chance of an isolated storm on Sunday. Wouldn't get my hopes up on that. We have to wait till about Tuesday and Wednesday of next week before the rain chances really start to increase. But notice those temperatures getting back into the 90s, but hopefully not muggy 90s. We definitely don't need to see that, and certainly we don't want to see any more 100s.
Yeah, not muggy certainly does make a difference.
It makes a huge difference.
Some rain.
Yes, unfortunately we don't see any in the near future, but hopefully we can change that.
Yeah, I hate to be picky. So I'll enjoy these
That's
temperatures
right.
in the 80s.
Let's take one thing at a time.
Very good. Thanks, Sam. Tropical storm Idalia is heading past Cuba and into the Gulf of Mexico. Forecasters expect the storm is going to hit Florida's Gulf Coast Wednesday as a major hurricane. Voluntary evacuation orders have already been issued north of Tampa, and emergency officials have urged residents to keep their vehicle gas tanks at least half full in case they need to evacuate. Coming up, how charging your electric vehicle at night could save you money and help the electric grid. Topping today's Consumer Watch, the U.S. Department of Transportation has slapped American Airlines with the largest fine ever for holding passengers on board for too long. The DOT is ordering American to pay $4.1 million. That's for tarmac delays on 43 flights between 2018 and 2021. 5,800 passengers are impacted. Half the money is to go to the government, the other half to those passengers. If all the affected American Airlines passengers are paid equally, that amounts to about $350 per person. 3M has agreed to pay more than $6.5 million to the Security and Exchange Commission. The payment settles allegations 3M subsidiary in China tried to hide payments to send Chinese government officials on secret overseas vacations and shopping sprees. The SEC says that was an arrangement to encourage the officials to buy 3M products. The SEC alleges the falsified expenses violate the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. Shares of Rite Aid plunged today after a Wall Street Journal report that the pharmacy giant is preparing to file for bankruptcy. According to the Journal, Rite Aid is expected to file for Chapter 11 within weeks. Declaring bankruptcy would halt lawsuits against the company related to the opioid epidemic. In a lawsuit, Justice Department lawsuit filed against Rite Aid, authorities accused the pharmacy chain of filling hundreds of thousands of unlawful prescriptions between 2014 and 2019. Americans are buying electric cars in record numbers, but there are concerns all that charging could put a strain on the electric grid. Reporter Michael George shows us how a new program is giving customers cash to charge at night.
Max Epstein has 2 electric cars, a Tesla Model 3 and a Toyota RAV4.
Going electric was doing our part for the environment, and it saved us a lot on fueling costs.
Electric car sales are up nearly 50% over the past year. Cox Automotive predicts about 1 million EVs will be sold this year, a number experts forecast could quadruple in the next 7 years. But more drivers charging means a growing demand for power. One analysis predicts EVs could boost overall electric use anywhere from 8 to 13% by 2030.
As electric vehicle adoption grows, we expect to see higher demand of electricity on the grid. That means higher stress on the grid, so we really want to be proactive.
Cora Walter is with the utility company Con Edison. She says those proactive moves include grid upgrades to handle demand and a new program called Smart Charge. Customers earn money when they charge during off-peak hours. That's midnight to 8 a.m. and avoid charging from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. in the summer months.
This reduces stress on the grid as we go through this clean energy transition.
Epstein signed up for the program on the first day and estimates he's already made more than $250 this year.
It's actually really easy to adjust. As long as your car is charged for your next day's commute or your activities, your errands, you're pretty much good to go.
At least 8 other utility companies nationwide are using similar programs, allowing customers to help save the planet and make a few bucks at the same time. Michael George, CBS News, Briarcliff Manor, New York.
A final check of the forecast next. Up next on the CBS Evening News, while some schools are banning it, we're going to look at how others are embracing the unique opportunities of artificial intelligence. Then on KOAM News at 6, we're going to hear from more officials in Noel, Missouri about the local impact of Tyson closing its plant. Plus, police in Baxter Springs, Kansas say they've seen an increase in imposter scams in the area, and how Missouri Southern is preparing for their first football game of the season on Thursday. Stay with us for the CBS Evening News and then KOAM News at 6. Once again, the weather out there.
Yeah, well, it's interesting down in the Gulf of Mexico. We're, of course, watching Idalia, and Idalia is going to be moving towards the north, and there's a few things that make this really complicated. One, the system is going to be intensifying as it comes inland. Number 2, it's going to be going over extremely warm water. And 3, it's going to be making landfall in a part of Florida that's basically a swamp anyway. So all of those things combined is what makes this a very dangerous hurricane, as the storm surge is going to be the primary factor in the destruction there in the Big Bend area of Florida. And if it takes a move to the right or to the east, Tampa could be impacted severely. Wow. And of course, that keeps up meteorologists at night at that nightmare scenario.
And residents of Tampa, for sure.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us. CBS Evening News is next. Of course, we'll be right back here at 6. Let's make it a great evening.